The text arrived at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday while I was reviewing contract proposals for a pharmaceutical client. My phone lit up with Dad's name and I made the mistake of reading it immediately. Jamie, I'm tired of your constant requests for help. You're 33 years old. Stop asking for handouts and get a real job like your brother. Some of us had to work for what we have. I stared at the screen, reading it 3 times to make sure I understood correctly. Handouts. My father thought I was asking for handouts. The irony was so sharp it actually made me laugh out loud. My colleague Sarah looked up from her desk. Everything okay? Fine. Just family stuff. I typed back. Understood. 1 word. That's all he deserved. Then I pulled up my banking app and navigated to automatic payments. Found the one labeled Riverside Apartments Unit 47B. Monthly payment, $4,200. Active since August 2018. Total paid $302,400 over 6 years. $300,000. I'd been paying my father's rent for 6 years and he thought I was asking him for handouts. The request for help he was referring to? I'd texted him yesterday asking if he wanted to grab coffee this weekend. Apparently that counted as begging in his mind. I clicked Cancel Recurring Payment. A confirmation dialog appeared. Are you sure you want to stop this automatic payment? Yes. Very yes. I selected next month as the end date. No point being cruel about the timing, he'd need his 30 days notice. Then I pulled up the property management company's number. Riverside Apartments, this is Monica. Hi Monica, this is Jamie Chin. I need to cancel a rental payment I've been making on behalf of a tenant. Sure, I can help with that. What's the unit number? 47B. Tenant name is Robert Chin. Keys clicking. Okay, I see it here. You're listed as the guarantor and payment source. Just to confirm, you want to terminate the payment arrangement. Correct. Final payment will be next month, then the tenant will need to pay directly or vacate. Understood. I'll send him a notice tomorrow that the payment source is changing. He'll need to set up his own payment method or, well, standard procedures apply if payment isn't received. Perfect. Thank you. I hung up and stared at my computer screen. My hands were steady. I felt calm. Eerily calm. Sarah was watching me again. You sure you're okay? You look kind of intense. I'm great actually. Just solved a problem that's been bothering me for 6 years. The backstory was simple and depressing like most family dysfunction. 6 years ago, Dad had retired early from his job as a regional sales manager. He'd always been good at his work. Charismatic, persuasive, the kind of guy who could sell anything to anyone. But he'd burned through money as fast as he made it. Expensive cars, country club memberships. A lifestyle that looked impressive but was built on credit and optimism. When he retired at 60, he'd expected his pension and 401k to fund the lifestyle he'd become accustomed to. They didn't. Not even close. Within a year he'd blown through most of his savings. Sold the house at a loss to pay off debts. Moved into a rental apartment in a nice complex. Not luxury but respectable. The kind of place where he could still feel successful. The rent was $4,200 a month. His pension covered about $2,800. I found out he was struggling when my brother Derek casually mentioned that Dad had asked him for money. Can you believe that? Derek had said laughing. I told him I've got my own family to support. He needs to downsize or get a part-time job. Derek was a dentist, married with 2 kids, living in a nice suburban house he never shut up about. Derek had always been the golden child. The successful one. The one who'd made something of himself. I was the disappointment. The freelancer. The one who'd chosen a weird career path in data analytics and consulting instead of something traditional and stable. What Derek didn't know, what nobody in my family knew, was that I made $380,000 a year. My consulting practice specialized in pharmaceutical data analysis and regulatory compliance. I had 6 major pharma clients on retainer, plus project work that brought in another $100,000 annually. I'd built the practice from nothing over 10 years and I was very good at what I did. But I worked from home. I didn't have an office or employees or business cards with fancy titles. To my family I was just Jamie doing computer stuff from her apartment, probably barely scraping by. I'd learned early not to correct them. Every time I tried to explain what I did, Dad's eyes would glaze over. That's nice, honey. Derek just bought a new BMW. Did you see the pictures? So I stopped explaining. Let them think I was struggling. It was easier than fighting for recognition I'd never receive. When I'd found out Dad needed help with rent, I'd set up an anonymous payment arrangement through the property management company. Created an LLC, made it look like he had a guarantor through some corporate assistance program. Dad never questioned it, he was just relieved the problem was solved. I planned to do it for a year. Maybe 2. Just until he got his feet under him. 6 years later I was still paying. And now he thought I was the one asking for handouts. The first week after I canceled the payment was quiet. I went about my work, attended virtual meetings with clients, delivered analysis reports. Normal life. Derek called on Thursday. Hey, want to grab dinner this weekend? Bring mom and dad, make it a family thing. Can't. I have a project deadline. You always have a project deadline. He sighed. You know, Jamie, you should try to make time for family. It's important. You're right. I'll try harder. I had no intention of trying harder. Saturday morning mom called. Jamie, sweetie, are you okay? Your father said you asked him for help. No, mom. I asked if he wanted to get coffee. Oh. Pause. Well, he seemed upset about it. You know how he is about. Well, he worked hard his whole life. He doesn't like feeling taken advantage of. I understand. Maybe just give him some space for a while. You know he loves you. Sure, mom. She hung up. I went back to my coffee and the research paper I was reading about clinical trial data management. By week 3 I'd almost forgotten about the whole thing. Work was busy. I was helping a client navigate an FDA audit, and the intensity of it left little room for family drama. Then Derek called on a Wednesday evening. Jamie, what the hell did you do? Hi, Derek. I'm fine, thanks for asking. Dad got an eviction notice. Says his rent wasn't paid and he has 10 days to pay or vacate. Did you know about this? Why would I know about it? I don't know. It doesn't make sense. He's been fine for years and suddenly the payment didn't go through? He's freaking out. Mom's freaking out. I need you to come over this weekend and help us figure this out. I can't. I have work. Jamie, this is serious. He could lose his apartment. That does sound serious. Have you offered to help him? Silence. Then, I've got a family to support. My mortgage, the kids' school, Sarah's not working right now. So you can't help. It's not that I can't, it's that I shouldn't have to. He's got savings, he's got his pension. His pension is $2,800 a month, Derek. His rent is $4,200. How do you know that? I asked. Years ago. Well, then he needs to move somewhere cheaper. That's what I told him. Great advice. I'm sure that's helpful with 10 days notice. Why are you being like this? What's your problem? No problem. Have to go. Client call. I hung up. Saturday morning someone knocked on my apartment door. I looked through the peephole and saw Mom standing there looking anxious. I considered not answering. But that felt cruel. I opened the door. Jamie, thank God. She rushed in without waiting for an invitation. We need to talk about your father. Hi, Mom. Coffee. I don't want coffee. I want to know what's happening with your father's apartment. He got an eviction notice. Derek told me. Yes. And he's desperate. The property company says the guarantor canceled the payment arrangement. He doesn't understand what that means. He thought his pension was paying the rent automatically. His pension is $2,800. Rent is $4,200. I know that now. But where was the extra money coming from? I poured myself coffee. The guarantor. But who is the guarantor? Me. Mom froze. What? I've been paying Dad's rent for 6 years. $4,200 a month. $302,400 total. The color drained from her face. That's not possible. It's very possible. I set it up through an LLC so he wouldn't know. I thought he needed help getting back on his feet after retirement. I sipped my coffee. But apparently I'm the one who asks for handouts and needs to get a real job. Oh my God. Mom sank onto my couch. Oh my God, Jamie. He texted me 3 weeks ago. Said I was constantly asking for help and should get a real job like Derek. I'd asked him if he wanted to have coffee. I showed her the text. She read it, her hand shaking. He didn't mean. He meant it, Mom. He's thought that for years. You'll have. Poor Jamie with her little computer job, barely getting by while Derek succeeds at everything. That's not fair. Isn't it? When was the last time you asked about my work? Really asked, not just polite conversation before changing the subject to Derek's practice or his kids or his new car. She was quiet. I make $380,000 a year. I own this apartment outright. I have a retirement account worth $1.2 million. I'm doing fine, Mom. Better than fine. I set down my coffee. But you all assumed I was struggling because my success doesn't look like Derek's success. So I let you assume it. Why didn't you tell us? Because every time I tried, nobody listened. It was easier to be invisible. Mom was crying now. Jamie, please. Your father is going to lose his apartment. He's already humiliated. If you could just what? Keep paying while he thinks I'm a failure? Keep subsidizing his lifestyle while he mocks mine. He'll apologize. I'll make him apologize. I don't want his apology. I want him to face reality. His rent is $4,200. His income is $2,800. Those numbers don't work. They never worked. I was the thing making them work and he never even knew it. So you're just going to let him become homeless? Your own father. The words were designed to hurt. To make me the villain. He has options. He can downsize. He can get a part-time job. He can ask Derek for help. Derek who has the real job and the successful career. I met her eyes. What he can't do is continue living a lifestyle he can't afford while calling me a failure. Jamie. You should go, Mom. I have work to do. She stood slowly. When did you become so cold? When I realized that being warm just meant getting burned. She left. The door closed with a soft click. I stood at the window watching the city below. My hands were shaking now. The calm was cracking. But I didn't regret it. Not one bit. Dad called that evening. I let it go to voicemail. Jamie. His voice was different. Smaller. I just talked to your mother. She said you've been paying my rent. I don't understand. Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you tell me? A long pause. Call me back. Please. I deleted the voicemail. He called again an hour later. Another voicemail. Jamie, I need to understand what's happening. If you've really been paying my rent all this time, then we need to talk about this. Call me. Deleted. Third call at 9 p.m. Jamie, I'm sorry about the text. I didn't know. How could I have known? Please call me back. I have 6 days to figure this out. I turned off my phone. Derek showed up at my office building on Monday. I didn't have an office there. I worked from home, but he didn't know that. The receptionist called me. Miss Chin? There's a Derek Chin here? He says he's your brother and it's urgent. Tell him I'm in a meeting and can't be disturbed. He's quite insistent. Then tell him to make an appointment through my email. She did. I heard Derek's raised voice through the phone. Then silence. He emailed me an hour later. Jamie, I don't know what's going on with you, but this is out of control. Dad is 66 years old and you're threatening to make him homeless over a text message? That's psychotic. I know you've always had issues with feeling overlooked in the family, but this is not the way to get attention. Dad made a mistake. He apologized. It's time to be an adult and help him. If you don't reinstate his rent payment, I'm going to tell everyone in the family what you're doing. How you're using money to manipulate and hurt Dad. How you're punishing him for one comment. Derek. I read it twice. Then I forwarded it to my attorney with a note. Family situation escalating. May need advice. She called me 20 minutes later. Jamie, what's happening? I explained everything. The 6 years of payments. The text. The cancellation. Okay, she said slowly. Let's be very clear about the legal situation. You have no obligation to continue paying your father's rent. It was a voluntary gift. He has no legal claim to continued support. I know. However, if your brother starts telling people you're manipulating your father, that could potentially be defamatory if it harms your professional reputation. What do I do? Document everything. Save all texts, emails, voicemails. If Derek escalates, we can send a cease and desist. She paused. Jamie, can I ask, what's your goal here? Pie goal. Do you want your father to lose his apartment? Or do you want him to understand what you've been doing for him? I thought about that. I want him to face reality. I want him to understand that the life he's been living wasn't sustainable and only existed because I was quietly making it possible. I want him to stop thinking I'm a failure while he's succeeding. Those are reasonable wants. But making your father homeless won't achieve them. It'll just make you the villain in the family story. So what should I do? That's not a legal question. That's a personal one. She was quiet for a moment. For what it's worth, I think you have every right to stop paying. But if you want any kind of relationship with your family going forward, you might need to find a middle path. After we hung up, I sat with that. Middle path. What did that even look like? Wednesday morning, 4 days before Dad's eviction deadline, I drove to Riverside Apartments. The complex was nice. Well-maintained with a pool and fitness center. The kind of place that said, I'm doing okay without being ostentatious. I could see why Dad liked it. It matched his self-image. I'd never actually been to his apartment. He'd never invited me. I knocked on Unit 47B. Dad answered immediately like he'd been waiting by the door. He looked terrible. Unshaven, wearing a wrinkled t-shirt, eyes bloodshot. Jamie. His voice cracked. You came. Can I come in? He stepped aside. The apartment was a mess. Boxes everywhere half-packed. Papers scattered across the dining table. A bottle of whiskey on the counter half-empty. I'm trying to figure out where I can afford, he said, gesturing at the chaos. One-bedroom places are still $3,500 in this area. I've been looking further out, but even those are $3,000. Sit down, Dad. He sat. I sat across from him. Why didn't you tell me? He asked. All this time. Why didn't you say something? Would you have accepted help from me? I don't know. Maybe. You told Derek I needed to downsize or get a part-time job. You thought it was reasonable advice. But you never considered taking it yourself. That's different. I'm retired. I worked for 40 years. And I'm working now. Making $380,000 a year consulting for pharmaceutical companies. But you didn't know that because you never asked. He stared at me. $380,000? Yes. Doing what? Data analysis. Regulatory compliance. Clinical trial design. Helping billion-dollar companies navigate FDA requirements. I pulled out my phone and showed him my consulting website. Client testimonials. Project case studies. My rate sheet. $350 per hour, $25,000 project minimums. He read slowly, his face changing. This is really you? Yes. But you work from home. You don't have an office or employees or... Neither do most successful consultants. We don't need overhead. We need expertise and reputation. I took back my phone. I've been doing this for 10 years. I own my apartment. I have investments. I'm financially secure. But you all assumed I was struggling because success doesn't look like Derek's dental practice. I didn't know. Because you didn't ask. Because every time I tried to explain my work, you'd tune out and change the subject to Derek. He flinched. That's not. It is. And it's fine. I stopped trying. But I also stopped letting you think I needed your approval. I leaned forward. 6 years ago I found out you couldn't afford your rent. I could have let you figure it out. Could have let you downsize or get a roommate or work retail. Instead, I set up an anonymous payment because I didn't want to watch you struggle. Why anonymously? Because you wouldn't have accepted help from your failure of a daughter. But you accepted help from a corporate guarantor program without question. He looked at the boxes, the papers, the evidence of panic. What happens now? That's up to you. I'm not going to keep paying your rent. Not because I can't afford it, but because you need to live within your actual means. I'll be homeless. No, you won't. You'll move somewhere you can afford. You'll adjust your lifestyle. You'll live like someone with a $2,800 monthly income instead of pretending you have more. I'm 66 years old, Jamie. I can't start over. Then get a part-time job. Derek's advice, remember? It was good advice. Just turned out to apply to you, not me. He was quiet for a long time. Then, I'm sorry about the text. Are you sorry about the text, or sorry you found out I was paying your rent? Both. He met my eyes. I was an ass. I've been an ass for years. You're right about everything. I dismissed you, ignored you, assumed you were failing because you weren't doing things the way I understood. And the whole time. He gestured at the apartment. The whole time you were holding my life together. Yes. Can you forgive me? Eventually, maybe. But forgiveness doesn't mean I'm going to keep paying your bills. I understand. He walked to the window. There's a 2-bedroom apartment in Riverside Hills. 15 minutes from here. Rent is $2,400. I could afford that with my pension. Have a little left over. That sounds reasonable. It's not as nice as this place. Smaller. Older building. But it's within your means. Yeah. He turned back to me. Will you help me move? The question surprised me. You want my help? I'd like to spend time with my daughter. Get to know her. The real her, not the version I made up in my head. He smiled weakly. Plus, I'm 66 and out of shape. Could use someone younger to carry boxes. Despite everything, I smiled. I can help you move. Thank you. He hesitated. Jamie, can I ask, why did you do it? Pay my rent for 6 years when I was treating you like you didn't matter. Because you're my father. Because I loved you. Because I couldn't watch you lose everything, even when you couldn't see what I was doing to help. I see it now. Good. Don't forget it. Moving day was a Saturday. Derek showed up, surprised to find me there. Jamie? I thought you said you were too busy. I am busy. But I made time. He looked between me and Dad, sensing something had shifted. What's going on? Dad was taping boxes. Jamie's helping me move to a place I can actually afford. We're getting along fine. Thanks for asking. I don't understand. The rent crisis is solved. I'm moving somewhere within my budget. But the guarantor payment was from Jamie. She'd been paying my rent for 6 years. Derek's face went blank. What? Your sister has been subsidizing my lifestyle since 2018. $4,200 a month. Over $300,000 total. Dad said it matter-of-factly, like he was reading a grocery list. I didn't know. Neither did you. We were all so sure she was struggling while you were succeeding. That's not, I never said. You did, Derek. I lifted a box. You all did. And it's fine. I'm not angry anymore. Derek followed me to the moving truck. You were angry? For a while. Then I realized I'd been enabling Dad's fantasy and your superiority complex by staying quiet. So I stopped. Why superiority complex? You think you're successful because you have a dental practice and a nice house and a BMW. You're successful. But so am I. Just differently. I loaded the box. I make more than you do actually. But I don't need people to know that to feel valid. He looked like I'd slapped him. You make more than, that's not possible. Dad laughed. From inside the truck. Actually laughed. That's what I said. Then she showed me her client list and rate sheet. Turns out we're the family disappointments, Derek. Jamie's the successful one. We just couldn't see it. I went back for another box. Derek stood there processing. Mom arrived an hour later with sandwiches. She hugged me carefully like I might break. Thank you for helping. It's fine. No, it's not fine. It's generous. After everything. She wiped her eyes. I'm sorry, Jamie. For not seeing you. For not asking about your life. For assuming. I know, Mom. Can we start over? Really get to know each other? Maybe. If you're actually interested in who I am instead of who you think I should be. I am. I really am. We moved boxes in silence for a while. Then Derek asked, what do you actually do? Like day to day. I explained clinical trial data analysis. Regulatory compliance consulting. How pharmaceutical companies hired me to help them navigate FDA requirements and design trials that would stand up to scrutiny. He listened. Really listened. That sounds complicated. It is. But I'm good at it. Yeah. I can see that. It wasn't much. But it was something. Dad's new apartment was smaller, older, less impressive. But it was his. Affordable. Sustainable. We got everything moved in by evening. Boxes everywhere, furniture arranged haphazardly but functional. I'll get it organized this week, Dad said, looking around. It's not the Riverside, but it'll work. It's a good place, I said. Yeah. He turned to me. Jamie, I want to pay you back. Not all at once, obviously. But something. 100 a month? 200. Dad. Please. Let me do this. Let me take responsibility for what you did for me. I thought about it. 800 a month. into a savings account. When it gets to 10,000, donate it to a charity of your choice. Why? Because I don't need the money back. But you need to take responsibility. This way you do both. He nodded slowly. Hey, I can do that. Derek and Mom left. I started to follow, but Dad stopped me. Hey, Jamie. Yeah. You want to grab coffee next weekend? No agenda. Just spend time together. The invitation I'd asked for a month ago. The one that had started everything. I'd like that. Good. He smiled. I'll buy. I've got my first month's rent paid and I can probably swing a couple lattes. Sounds perfect. 3 months later, I met Dad every other Saturday for coffee. We talked about his life, my work, current events, random things. Normal father-daughter conversations. He'd gotten a part-time job at a hardware store. 20 hours a week, supplementing his pension. I actually enjoy it, he'd said. Gives me something to do. People to talk to. Feels good to work again. Derek called occasionally now. Asked about my projects. Told me about his practice. We weren't close, but we were civil. Sometimes even friendly. Mom invited me to dinner once a month. Actually asked about my clients, my work, my life. Listened to the answers. The family dynamic had shifted. I wasn't the disappointment anymore. But I also wasn't trying to prove anything. I just existed as myself, and that was enough. One Saturday, Dad showed me his savings account balance. $1,200. 10 months, he said proudly. At this rate, I'll hit 10,000 in 7 years. You don't have to keep going if it's a burden. It's not a burden. It's a reminder. He sipped his coffee. Reminder that I took you for granted. That I made assumptions about success. That I hurt someone who was helping me. Dad. Let me finish. That text I sent you. Get a real job like your brother. I think about it all the time. How cruel it was. How wrong. He met my eyes. You had a real job. You had a successful career. You were helping me survive. And I was so blind I didn't see any of it. You see it now. Yeah. Because you forced me to. By pulling away the safety net I didn't know I had. He smiled. Best lesson I ever learned. Worst way to learn it. Most important lessons are like that. We sat in comfortable silence. Around us, the coffee shop buzzed with weekend activity. Families, couples, friends. Normal life. Can I ask you something? Dad said. Why did you really do it? Pay my rent for 6 years when I was treating you badly? I told you. Because you're my father. Because I loved you. But love doesn't mean being a doormat. You could have walked away. I almost did. Many times. I thought about how to explain it. I guess I kept hoping you'd see me. Really see me. And when you finally did, when you realized what I'd been doing. I shrugged. I needed you to see me because of consequences, not because I was begging for attention. That's a hard way to go about it. It was the only way you'd listen. He nodded. You were right. About all of it. And I'm grateful. Not for the money, though I'm grateful for that too. But for not giving up on me. For giving me a chance to be better. You're welcome. We finished our coffee. Made plans for next week. Hugged goodbye. I drove home through the city, sun setting over the buildings. My phone buzzed with a client email. A new project, lucrative and challenging. Exactly the kind of work I loved. My life was good. Successful. Built on a foundation of expertise and hard work and staying true to who I was, even when my family couldn't see it. For 6 years I'd been invisible while keeping my father's life from falling apart. Now I was visible. Appreciated. Not because I'd demanded recognition. But because I'd stopped accepting invisibility. Sometimes the best gift you can give someone is letting them face the consequences of their assumptions. Letting them see reality instead of protecting them from it. Dad had thought I was a failure asking for handouts. He'd learned I was the one giving them. The lesson had been painful but necessary. And now we were building something real. A relationship based on honesty instead of assumptions. On respect instead of dismissal. It had taken $300,000 and an eviction notice for him to see me. But now he did. And that was worth everything.